So I was at a restaurant for my birthday, and we were sitting next to this couple and their two boys, and the boy was doing something. I don't know what it was. It didn't look like anything. I think he was holding his knife wrong or something like that. And everything seemed fine until the mother pointed it out. Hey, stop that, right? And then the father looks at him and tells him to stop, and then the kid keeps doing it, whatever it was. I didn't even notice. And then the father totally forgot about it. He's like, keep eating, relaxed. And then the mother's like, hey, I told you to stop. And then the father snaps and hits the kid's hand, right? And then I was like, whoa. So I felt my own childhood experiences with that. But the thing that struck me was that the father in no way cared about this. This wasn't the father just being abusive to the son or trying to discipline him for something that he thought was bad. It only happened because the mother thought it was bad. And was it the father that was neglecting it? Was it nothing big to begin with? Which was it? I don't know. But it just made me think how many relationships that we're in where we do things only because our partner thinks we should, instead of us doing it because we know it's right, or aligning other people's actions towards right or wrong, or towards right from wrong because we know it's wrong, instead of just out of habit or out of the perceived desires or stated desires from our partners. And I don't know, and then there's so much more that went into it. But the thing that really struck me was this kid, as soon as he was hit, just looked right at me, and I locked eyes with him for it seemed like forever, but it must have been only 5 seconds. But the kid looked right at me, and the parents were just looking, they were honing in on him, totally ignoring that he was looking at me. And I looked at the kid, and I was like, I don't know, there was this moment where we connected, You have these moments in life where you connect with somebody, you have no idea who they are, but they're going through something, and you've touched their soul, you've reached out. And we didn't make any communication, but I saw in his eyes, and he saw in my eyes, that it was a shared experience on some level. And it wasn't a cry for help, but it was just you see this? You see what I have to deal with? You see where I'm at? And I nodded to the boy I see you, man, I see it. I'm not ignoring this. And it also made me think very much of how much we ignore from children, what they're going through. We just think they're children, they're innocent, they're coddled, they're protected, and they're in their whole other world. They're not even human. They're just there until they're adults, and then we can deal with them. And how many people have this really twisted notion of children, that they're somehow beneath or out of reach. And so we're not supposed to interact. We're not supposed to even recognize that they're human, recognize that they're there among us, with us, instead of. And then there's also the whole thing, you can't look at a child, you can't touch a child, you can't help a child at all unless you're direct family or, have a very clear stated reason for being with them. Because otherwise, pedophilia, or, it's you're trying to assault my child, are you trying to mislead them? Are you trying to impress upon them your ideals and stuff like that? So there's this huge, protective barrier, and I think that's why a lot of people over time have just totally backed away from having anything to do with children or anything like that, including people in their own family, like grandparents to their grandchildren or what have you, because the parents hate them or vice versa, whatever. So all this shit in it, right? So all this is going through my mind, and I'm having this moment with this kid, and then I just think to myself, wow, something has to be done. Something has to be done where we bridge this gap, where we take responsibility for the children and for the people and for all, you are me, I am you. And I was thinking about this when I was on the trail this morning at 6 a.m. How we don't take responsibility. We don't see ourselves as part of nature. We don't. And when I say we, I mean like in the first world. In the second and third worlds, they're a lot more closer to things, closer to the ground. Okay, they have their hearts and eyes and ears to the ground, and they feel the pulse of the planet. First world, we're so plump and like just, like we've eaten way too many cheese and steak hamburgers and fucking French fries and white wine and fucking we're just off the whoop. Okay, and all the fucking pharmaceuticals. We're so far away from it, and then even if you somehow made it through all that garbage, and then you're connected. There's still all the media, all the bullshit, all the cultural conditioning, and all this stuff, And I think that's, in all honesty, that's what the whole white supremacy thing is, or whatever. Because the first world is mostly white, and it has been for a long time. But that's really shifting now to Asia, where it's like they are now the massive power that's building, and that's why all this stuff is going on. But my point being, in the first world, in the white world, predominantly, or as it looks, we have been so left in a stew of very fine wines and very fine sauces and gravies and spices, So we're detached from the daily grind of nature, of the inescapable, that which is. We've allowed ourselves to get caught in the matrix. We've allowed ourselves to get just in this upswell of unreality. And I think now the whole world is in this because of globalization. It's not just the first world anymore. More and more, it's like every single house. Any family, any group of people that the vast majority of what they do every day is being on the net, and they're in clickbait 5-6 hours a day. They're in the unreality. They're in the first world psychosis. They're in a coma, the first world coma. And when you can break away from that, when you do meditation, when you do breathing, when you do really strong long workouts, whatever, or psychedelics, which are pretty much the golden bullet, the silver bullet, the surefire weapon to break through the haze of the conditioning, of the food, all these things that are bringing us down, that are keeping us down. The religion of our culture that we've been addicted to, that we've come to accept in every facet, You break through that, and then you realize the oneness, the unity. And I'm not just talking about this in a new age garbage kind of way. I'm literally talking about the scientific fact, atomically. We're all entangled. Molecularly, where every single atom in the universe has a connection to every other. All right? It's not just meaningless matter. And this brings me back to what I was saying about being on the trail. I was thinking, the problem with the elite is that they literally have disconnected from nature. To them, it is a commodity. You are a commodity. All the people in the world are a commodity for them to acquire. It had to souls and spirituality and the sacred. To them, this is a barrier to acquisition. A barrier to their predominance in the world. Anything that restricts their ability to manipulate, to control, to own reality is not only a barrier, it is a statement against their ability to acquire. It is saying you're not good enough to own me. And therefore for them, you're an enemy. Anybody who believes in the sacred, anybody who believes, this has no price. Anybody who even says that to them either immediately becomes an object of desire that they must acquire, and they must dominate, and they must own. And hence, this is where we are today. In a world where the elite have now pretty much come to own everything. And if not outright, they own it as a matter of course. They will get there. They will come to the point where the ends justify the means, and they have now bought your soul. And for me, a lot of this all boils down to what we've seen in the last year with the lockdowns, where people willingly give up their rights for the greater good. Favorite Nazi term, it's for the greater good. In order to be free. In order to be allowed to do all the things that they used to being able to do, the things that we've grown used to, as I mentioned already in this talk. Driver's licenses, all these licenses, all these permits, all these permissions are basically and totally rights that we've always had, that we do have, but have now been stolen away by people who have a monopoly on force, the government, and said that we will lend it out to you at interest, and if you break any of the rules, we will throw you in a cage. We will threaten you with violence. We will arrest you. We'll kick your teeth out. We'll do whatever we want. And you'll love us for it. You'll love your enslavement. And you'll beg for it. And anybody who you see free, you'll demand that they become a slave just like you are. And this is the perfect system of slavery. And this is where we're on tax farms. Okay? Tax farms. That's where we're at. This is it. Tax farm earth. Alright? You don't like it? Too bad. Death and taxes. Death and taxes. Death and taxes. It's inevitable. Well, death certainly. But taxes? We're the only species on earth that is taxed to live and to die. And we have to pay rent on the land that we were born on. How insane are we? How insane are we? And this is no advocation for communism or socialism in any way. It's an advocation for the end, the abolishment of government, the control of the mind and the spirit and the soul. That's what government means. And people believe it, people worship it. And there's only truly one road towards salvation, and that is away from government and towards total freedom of the individual. And we're getting there. We're going to get there one way or the other, whether it's the destruction of this planet, the erasure of this species, or we overcome all of our bullshit. We drop the baggage of our youth, the childhood of our species way back when, and all that terrible trauma. We drop that shit. We get over all these crazy notions that money is God, and that authority exists, and we need to do whatever they say, otherwise we deserve the punishment that we receive from the stormtroopers. We get out of this mindset, and we evolve, and we ascend. Or nature has its way. Every time. There's no way out of it. And if you question that, you're fucking delusional, son. So don't question it. Realize it. See the truth. Live it. And perhaps one day we can live free.